Earlier this week, a grain of silo exploded in the southern part of Brazil, killing at least 8 and injuring almost a dozen. Details of this report from Mayk Oliveira.
In the Brazilian state of Paraná, a grain silo exploded Wednesday afternoon local time. Reports say that at least 8 people died and 11 others suffered injuries. Of all fatalities, all were men between the ages of 27 and 55. One of them a Brazilian national and the other 7 of Haitian nationality. An official statement from Cevale providing a third update on the incident said a search for a missing person continues. Video footage circulating on social media shows a large column of white smoke coming from the site. The blast happened in Cevale Cooperative in the small town of Palotina, where around 30,000 people live and is located 600 kilometers away from the state's capital, Curitiba. Cevale is known to be a major producer of soybeans, wheat, and corn that stores grain in 125 units across 5 Brazilian states as well as in Paraguay. A silo is a structure for storing bulk materials and is used in agriculture to store fermented feed known as silage. The company said the silo, which blew up, stored about 12,000 metric tons of soybeans and 40,000 metric tons of corn. According to Cevale, a similar explosion took place in the area back in 1993. The IML, which stands for Instituto Médico Legal or Institute of Forensic Medicine in English, has only released the body of Saulo da Rocha Batista, while the 7 others are yet to be released, according to Cevale. Saulo's funeral takes place Friday local time at the Bom Jesus Funeral Home in Palotina. Meanwhile, as of now, the cooperative said that the cause of the explosion is yet to be determined. This is Mayk Oliveira reporting SMN.
Wildlife officials had no choice but to euthanize dozens of stranded pilot whales off the coast in Western Australia as efforts to put them back in the water have failed, Shayna Selim reports.
After 48 hours of desperate attempts to save nearly 100 pilot whales stranded at Chains Beach, wildlife officials finally made a heartbreaking decision to help the struggling mammals, no other than to euthanize the surviving ones.
It was truly a hard and heartbreaking decision, but it's something the situation had called for.
Late on Monday, a pod of 97 pilot whales beach masked close to the shore of Chains Beach, forming what seemed to be a heart-shaped formation before getting stranded on the shore. The next day, 52 of them died, urging wildlife officials to make frantic efforts to rescue the surviving ones. But despite desperate attempts by authorities and volunteers to put them back in the water, the surviving whales have only re-stranded themselves farther down the beach. This behavior urged officials to euthanize the 45 surviving whales on Wednesday to avoid prolonging their suffering. As experts try to solve the mystery behind this behavior, a research fellow from Griffith University said emotion could have played a huge role in the stranding incident, noting that pilot whales are some of the most emotional animals on the planet and are notorious for their strong social bonds. Mass stranding of whales is common in some parts of the world, and this is not the first time it happened in Australia.
Marine experts hope the latest incident of whales mass stranding could help scientists understand why the animals and whales in general beach themselves. Reporting from New South Wales, this is Shayna Selim, SMN News, Australia.
The era of global boiling has arrived, as said by the United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. He also called upon world leaders after announcing this month will be the hottest month in record history. Justin Nazario reports.
Climate change has reached a terrifying point. This is what the United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres announced on Thursday, July 27, 2023. He revealed that July 2023 might become the hottest month ever recorded on Earth, according to data from the World Meteorological Organization, or WMO, and the EU's Copernicus Climate Change Service.
Humanity is in the hot seat. July has already seen the hottest 3-week period ever recorded, the 3 hottest days on record, and the highest ever ocean temperatures for this time of year. The consequences are clear and they are tragic. Children swept away by monsoon rains, families running from the flames, workers collapsing in scorching heat. For vast parts of North America, Asia, Africa, and Europe, it's a cruel summer. For the entire planet, it is a disaster. The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived.
Meanwhile, Carlo Bontempo, the head of Copernicus, shared that the extreme weather experienced in July is a harsh reality of climate change, and it's a glimpse of what to expect in the future, as forecasts suggest that temperatures will continue to be much higher than usual. Meanwhile, WMO Director of Climate Services Chris Hewitt gave a worrying prediction. He said there's a 98% chance that one of the next 5 years will break the record for the hottest year ever recorded. Hewitt also described conditions this July as remarkable and unprecedented and urged action on climate shock adaptation.
We would need to adapt to those heat waves to take care of vulnerable societies or whatever it might be, the environment. So yes, there's a need to adapt to increases in temperature. And then, as you asked in the question, there are other extremes as well. So extremes, flooding, droughts, windstorms.
Meanwhile, Carlo Bontempo, director of the Copernicus Climate Change Service at the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecast, or CEMWF, said that such measures are necessary and feasible.
Typically, there are actions, even inexpensive action, that individual and local administration can take to limit the exposure, to limit the vulnerability of each one of us to this temperature.
Both scientists have also urged governments and individuals to take action to protect vulnerable populations from heat waves. Meanwhile, the UN Secretary General made it clear in his statement that humans are to blame for the arrival of the global boiling.
And for scientists, it is unequivocal. Humans are to blame. All this is entirely consistent with predictions and repeated warnings. The only surprise is the speed of the change.
With this, Guterres called upon world leaders to act swiftly and decisively.
Leaders must lead. No more hesitancy. No more excuses. No more waiting for the others to move first. There is simply no more time for that. And all actors must come together to accelerate a just and equitable transition from fossil fuels to renewables, as we stop oil and gas expansion and funding and licensing for new coal, oil and gas. Credible plans must also be presented to exit coal by 2030 for OECD countries and 2040 for the rest of the world.
One of the main actions the UN chief called for was to stop using coal in developed countries by 2030 and in the rest of the world by 2040. This step is considered crucial to combat the worsening climate crisis. Reporting, this has been Justin Azorio, SMNI News.